Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a fraternal Charles Coulombe.
Fraternal? I like that, as in brotherly.
Yeah.
Like a comrade.
Yeah.
Like a member of the Knights of Columbus.
Yes, exactly.
The Elks.
Are you a member of the Elks?
No.
Oh.
The Knights of Peter Claver.
Yeah.
The Rainbow Girls.
No. Is that a real group?
Yes. It's a Masonic girls' organization. But because of sexism, I'm not allowed in. Well, and I wouldn't want to join a Masonic group anyway, but still. I'm being kept out. There's prejudice going on. You know, in this oh-so-enlightened country was, I can't be a rainbow girl, and I can't join the Order of the Eastern Star, which is for old Masonic women. Not a lot I can't get in on. They'll never let me be a Gold Star mother.
What is that?
Well, Gold Star mothers are the very unfortunate ladies who have lost children in combat.
Oh.
But they'll never let me be one.
Well, you can dream, Charles.
I could. I really wouldn't want to be a Gold Star mother, though, honestly. Nor would I want to be a member of, well, of course, there's a very cruel old joke. You know what a yenta is?
No.
A yenta is Yiddish for kind of a nagging, nasty, not nasty, but pushy old lady, constantly gossiping, and, you know, is a yenta.
Okay.
And so the joke they have, what's the plural of yenta?
What?
Hadassah. That's the big Jewish women's organization.
Oh, okay.
But no, I, despite the fact that I'm not happy with the way our order, the Knights of Columbus, is going, I feel a lot better about the Knights of Peter Claver at the moment. But, you know, Americans used to be the utter hallmark people when it came to fraternalism. We loved fraternal orders. I mean, not just the Knights of Columbus and the Knights of Peter Claver, not just the Elks, but the Moose, the Eagles, the Foresters, the Masons, of course, in every conceivable variety, the Oddfellows, the Knights of Pythias, many of which, of course, were forbidden to Catholics, some of which were not. But, you know, like the Flintstones, you had the Water Buffaloes Lodge. Americans loved fraternal organizations. They absolutely adored them. And we were
Rotary
famous
Club.
for them. Rotary Club, Kiwanis, Lions Club, you know, and of course the veterans organizations, AMVETS, the American Legion, the VFW, all of these organizations, hereditary organizations, you know, the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Sons of the American Revolution, the college fraternities and college sororities, all this stuff.
It's great.
Yeah. I mean, I could do without the Masonic end of it, but other than that, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really want to be a rainbow girl. I was just being funny.
Why Rainbow Girl? That's not a gay thing, is it?
No, long predates the use of the rainbow as that. It's always struck me as a funny name. The Rainbow Girls, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually, believe it or not, in Boy Scouting, back before it was destroyed, and even now, there was a fraternal organization, fraternal order, called the Order of the Arrow, which I was a member of. It had 3 grades: Ordeal, Vigil, and Brotherhood. I only got as far as Ordeal.
That was like the Boy Scouts?
Yeah, if you were particularly adept camper and so forth, and very much into scouting, the Order of the Arrow provided an extra outlet that was very did its own thing, was very much allied to Scouting. And it was considered very much a matter of pride if you were tapped out, as they say, at a camporee, because they'd have these big Order of the Arrow campfires. Now, only a certain proportion of scouts were tapped out to go to the Order of the Arrow. And then, if you did, then you had to undergo what was called the ordeal. And this was basically a weekend of work, building trails, whatever it might be, during which you were forbidden to speak. And the funny thing about that, in our case, you made these 3 wooden triangles with arrows on them. Every time you spoke, you get one cut off. And of course, if you got 3, you flunked the ordeal and you went home, and that was it. Well, my brother had lost 2 triangles. My brother Andre had lost 2 triangles. He held on to the 3rd, and so passed the ordeal, went to the Order of the Arrow. You have no idea how annoyed he was with me when I came home with all 3 triangles. He says, "I don't understand how you did it. You're such a chatterbox." And I said, "Well, I wanted to do better than you did, so."
You just spawned a thought in my mind, because I've actually been big on groups lately too, but Catholic groups.
Yeah.
The Confraternity of the Rosary I just joined.
Yeah.
After reading The Secret of the Rosary again by de Montfort. If you say the Rosary at least 3 times a week, look into the Confraternity. I'm going to promote that heavily in a future show. The Auxilium Christianorum, which is kind of a prayer group that powers up exorcists. Father Ripperger has a lot of information on that. What is it? My mom's going to be Third Order Carmelite, and they have all these prayers and things. Opus Dei, know some Opus Dei people. But I think you have to. It takes one to become one, right? Like,
that's what they say about the Masons. Thanks. what a ringing endorsement. To become one, ask one. Yeah, okay. That's really nice. I mean, the Opus Dei need you as the spokesman like a hole in the head. That's horrible. Gosh.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, but it's true. And I myself have joined several of those. The Confraternity of the Precious Blood.
Ooh.
Out of Brooklyn.
How do you join that one?
Well, you go to the website of the Confraternity of the Precious Blood at the Monastery of the Precious Blood in Brooklyn, New York. And they're the people, this is their prayer manual, which is very famous. I'm sure you've seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They've got all sorts of wonderful prayers and all that. And I've also joined the Honor Guard of the Sacred Heart, the Guard of Honor of the Sacred Heart, where you take an hour of your day, a particular hour, like mine, it's 11 p.m. You don't do anything different necessarily, but you offer everything you're going to do in that hour for the Sacred Heart. And they have prayers and so on. And then there were others that were quite famous, just as there were the Knights of Columbus in almost every parish. You had the Holy Name Society.
Holy Name Society. Okay.
And one of the things about the Holy Name Society that was very particular was that back in the day when people didn't receive communion that frequently, one Sunday a month, all the members of the Holy Name Society would receive communion together at a Mass. That was a big thing. But it's still going. There's the Legion of Mary.
Yeah, I forgot the Legion of Mary. My mom used to belong to that. I was looking into that, but I kind of got intimidated because, there's like obligatory door-to-door salesmanship type. I can't do that.
No, don't. But I mean, they have those things. Most orders have third order arrangements of some kind, like the Carmelites, Dominicans. I don't think the Jesuits do. And then, of course, the Spanish, the French, and the Italians have a lot of these devotional confraternities.
St. Vincent de Paul Society.
Yeah. There is the St. Vincent de Paul Society. There's the Order of the Alhambra. Catholic War Veterans. The Daughters of Isabella and the Catholic Daughters of the Americas. Um, they've got, I mean, really an endless, and Catholic ethnic organizations.
Oh gosh, you know,
The Italian Catholic Federation.
we mentioned
The
everybody other than the TFP.
Well, all right, the TFP, but the Ancient Order of Hibernians, the Union Saint Jean Baptiste. I won't tell you what people they're for. The Slovak Catholic Union, the Lithuanian Catholic Knights. I mean, it's endless.
Italian Catholic Federation.
Yeah, you have that. You have the ICF at Holy Angels
I know. Yeah, I know.
at Haha.
Yeah.
They would put on both the St. Joseph table at Haha, and they had every so often they'd have spaghetti dinners, thus prolonging the stereotype that Italians eat spaghetti.
Well, the ironic thing is that most of the people in the ICF aren't even Italian anymore. So.
Well, that is a problem with a lot of ethnic Catholic groups. The part of the problem is that my generation really were not joiners, and some younger people have rediscovered some groups. And what you'll often find, I mean, this is what I found at the LA Breakfast Club. There'll be a bunch of old people. There'll be some really young people. And my age group just isn't there.
So when you say age group, are you talking about the boomers?
No, because you'll find some of the very oldest boomers there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, people in their 50s who could be either boomer or Gen X,
Yeah.
either one. You won't find us.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Stupid, bored. I don't know. I mean, it makes me quite curious because you keep seeing this pattern over and over again in all sorts of things. But at any rate, I'm all for these sorts of organizations because they're really the fabric of our society, and women's clubs, and well, you know how I feel about historical societies,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. I mean, whether it's state, county, or local, I'm all for it. And I'm all for local conservation groups as well. Land trusts and friends of the Dead Bunny Waterfall, or whatever. I mean, there's so many organizations that are friends of, and there'll be a local building or a local nature spot or a local something. Friends of the Arcadia Public Library.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, the organizational life, the fraternal life, is a good one.
Yeah.
Man was not meant to live alone, being obnoxious. He was meant to be around other people to be obnoxious to. Anyway.
Okay. Before we get into the memes, let's kind of do a run through of August. I found a really cool picture on your timeline, which let me share screen with you so you can see it once again.
Yes. Nationalize the memes of production for the common good.
Yeah. Okay, so can you see what I have up on the screen, Charles?
I can see it. I can see it very definitely.
All right. Would you like to run us through the month of? Oh, first off, where did you get this from?
Well, this is from basically a guide to a graphic guide to the holidays of the church year by an Anglo-Catholic lady named Enid Chadwick, who, or maybe she pronounced it Chaddock. I don't know. She was English, so maybe she didn't pronounce the W. But she worked at the Shrine of Our Lady of Walsingham for many, many years. And as you see, she was an extremely talented artist with a real flair. So what do we got? Well, August 1st is Lammas Day, which last week we talked about. The 4th was St. Dominic, founder of the Blackfriars. The 6th, yesterday, was the Feast of the Transfiguration, one of my favorite feasts. Our Lord on Mount Tabor and so forth.
Yes.
And then the 10th, St. Lawrence, the treasures of the church. That refers to the fact that when St. Lawrence was arrested, he was the deacon of the Pope who'd already been sent off to be executed. And the Roman government agreed to pardon him if he would give up the treasures of the church to them. Well, he said, give me a couple of days and I'll gather all of our treasures. I said, all right. Well, what he gathered were all the poor people the church supported. Those were the treasures. He said, these are our treasures. And the governor didn't really appreciate his remarks, so he fried him on a gridiron.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. And while he was frying, he finally said, you may turn me over now. This side's done.
Oh, is that St. Lawrence?
Yeah.
That's very famous. I thought that was someone else. Okay.
No, St. Lawrence. So the 15th, well, now, the falling asleep of the Blessed Virgin Mary when Mary joined the Divine Son in heaven, they say that they call it that instead of the Assumption, because a lot of Anglicans deny the doctrine of the bodily Assumption of the Virgin Mary. And the Orthodox, who did not deny it until we defined it in 1950, they've always called it the falling asleep of the BVM, so that, gives them wiggle room. And then the 20th, St. Bernard of Clairvaux, dreaming on Christmas Eve. I think of Our Lady, but I forget the story. And lastly, the 24th, St. Bartholomew, also called Nathaniel. And he, of course, was quite the important chappie.
What was his story?
St. Bartholomew is one of the 12 apostles. He went out to Persia, I think, after the Pentecost, and that he evangelized, and then he was executed. All the apostles except St. John were martyred, and in the case of St. John, they boiled him in oil and it didn't work.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do some memes here.
Nationalize the memes of production.
For the common good. Okay. First one is from Aaron Hook. Now he says, this is just a comment from him. Having watched Off the Menu over many years, I've come to a view. At some point between 2017 and 2018, Don Vincenzo went up to the 13th floor and had his mind removed by the Stygian horrors that dwell there and replaced by an eldritch consciousness, which has looked ever since to see the downfall of man by the dissemination of ancient desiccated mackerel throughout the world.
Well, I mean, that makes sense if you know what ends up being served in the commissary. But, as far as the 13th floor goes, that's really... I'm sorry, what were we talking about? Oh, the 13th floor, right. Well, so the problem with what he's saying is that if you went up to the 13th floor, what you would actually see is... I'm sorry, what were we talking about? The 13th floor, I remember. All right. So the trick is, if you were to go up to the 13th floor, the elevator doors would open, and then you would see... I'm sorry, what were we talking about? I remember.
Okay, yeah. So the Stygian horrors. What's a Stygian horror? What does that mean?
Well, a horror is a horror, and the Stygian means black, dark.
Dark. Why is it capitalized? As if there's some special there.
I don't know. Where are these Stygian horrors supposed to be?
Okay.
Where are they supposed to be?
Well, don't worry about that right now.
Okay.
What about Eldritch? What's
Eldritch? That's very... What's got your mind on these questions?
Oh, just this and that.
Okay, well, Eldritch has to do with elves, but it's a little weirder than Elven.
So Eldritch, it's a little weirder. Okay, how?
Yeah, because, we think of the elves as vaguely benevolent. And elven is sort of enchanting. Eldritch is weird.
Okay, yeah. So,
Well, I mean, for example, I've heard people try to describe what's on the 13th floor as Eldritch. And I have to say to them, no, on the 13th floor, what? I'm sorry, what were we talking about again? I remember the 13th floor. Well, Eldritch does not necessarily, I mean, I could see why you would apply it to.
okay. So, we
What
were
were we
saying
talking about again?
next meme. Next meme is from Anne. Now she says, "In my silk ball gown and diamond-studded tiara, peel me a grape." And
Gosh, she obviously wasn't there this last session.
this is bringing this up because she perfectly embodies the class of our patrons. Usually, well, other than today. I mean, because today we're filming this on Casual Friday, and they went a little overboard. But
I'll say they went overboard. It was like being at a slumber party. I mean,
normally
they are so elegant, you'd think it was the night at the opera in 1934.
Exactly.
But today, because we're doing this on Friday, they figured, oh, well, it's Casual Friday, and they came cash all right. You remember the lady with the curlers in her hair and the mud pack?
We're trying to sell the show, Charles. I don't pay you to talk about slumber parties and to downplay the Tumblr House culture here.
Well, they're your friends.
Oh, they're not your... Oh, wow. Okay.
They're my friends when they dress the way they normally do, and they're your friends when they dress like slumber party people.
Oh, I see.
See how that works? It's kind of like when you have a kid. You'll find when the kid behaves well, your wife will say, "Oh, that's my little boy," and when not, you better speak to your son. It's like that.
Okay, well, so become a patron today. We did another, I think it was like 50-minute pre-show. Yeah. I actually tallied all of our hours up of the total pre-shows, and we're at like 29 hours now. And I've created a playlist, so you can access 29 hours of extra content, patron only.
That's a lot of content.
That is a lot of content, isn't it? Gosh. Okay, so... yeah, a lot of cool things. We've got our world-famous cost-sharing program, gourmet meals, friendly, welcoming corporate culture, spearheaded by Tyrone, who is our head of security and also our morale officer.
Oh, yeah. Floggings will continue until morale improves. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy here.
Everybody's happy here. Everyone's very happy here.
Happier than they were.
So if any of this sounds like your cup of tea, join now.
And bear in mind, too, that Tyrone has stayed working with Tumblr House, despite the fact that he's gotten offers from both Mayor Garcetti and Governor Newsom.
Yeah, he's high in demand. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah, anyway, he would go far in government service right now.
Yeah.
Boy, you're not wearing your mask. Shoot to kill. I'll tell you what, if either one of those gentlemen had Tyrone working for them, we'd all be wearing masks. Even if we weren't living in the state of the city. Oh, I'm just going to put this on to be safe.
All right, on to the questions, shall we?
All right.
All right, first question is from Andrew. Hello, gentlemen. I hesitate to reignite the absolute bloodbath that took place on the show last week regarding feudalism, but I was hoping that Charles could respond to a related query. I just finished the book, Chivalry, The Everyday Life of the Medieval Knight by Leon Gautier, which I purchased from...
What a book.
Yes, which I purchased from the Tumblr House bookstore along with deliverance prayers for use by laity by Father Chad Ripperger, the combined price of which exceeded $25, which in turn ensured that I received free shipping and handling. The only issue I had was that when the courier was delivering my COD to the Tumbler House Tower, Tyrone shot the man in the foot. The poor man barely even stepped foot in the parking lot. Because of this, the delivery service is now requiring me to pay the man's medical bills, a cost that is significantly higher than what the shipping and handling would have been. I only bring this up to say that they really do mean it, folks. Absolutely no CODs.
No CODs.
Please don't learn the hard way as I did.
You're a smart man. And you know, he's sharing important information, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrone don't take no guff, and he sure don't take no CODs.
That's right. Okay. Anyway, my question for Charles is that in chivalry, Gautier, several times throughout the book, seems to take a derisive attitude toward the institution of feudalism, saying among other things that, quote, "We have more strongly still protested against the creed of certain fanatics, who instead of accepting feudalism as a necessity of history, designate it now as the most perfect form of all government, and, quote, the weak entertained the very natural idea of seeking the protection of the strong, and rallying round them, cried, defend us, defend us. Such was feudalism. There was nothing divine or perfect about it. It was merely a phenomenon that took place from form of circumstances, necessary and in the good sense of the term fatal, inevitable." End quote. He also recounts horrific stories of the intense loyalty in which vassals would serve their lords, even to the point of committing acts that are against the church and the code of chivalry itself. See the epic poem Raoul de Cambrai, when Raoul's vassal Origny, after aiding his lord in an act that led to his own mother being burned alive, says, quote, "My lord Raoul is a greater traitor than Judas, but he is my lord, and I would not fail him for the world." Can Charles please give his reaction to feudalism in light of Gautier's comments? Does he think Gautier is wrong or in need of revision in his assessment of feudalism?
Well, first you've got to bear in mind that Gautier was very much a man of the 19th century. And to some degree, he did believe in the cult of progress. The idea that, you know, things will get better and better and so forth. Not necessarily. I mean, he wasn't that kind of progressive. But the truth of the matter is, in my humble estimation, is that feudalism is actually a perennial in human history. And it will constantly occur whenever the central regime begins to fall apart, because people have to safeguard themselves. I mean, you're seeing it already in a limited sense in the areas of our country that are, shall we say, most affected by the inability of the government to do anything about the riots and so on, the looting. You know, at its least and most ignoble sense, you could almost call paying protection feudalism. Your Uncle Giovanni could have told you about that. He'd heard. Yeah. I don't mean to say he indulged, but, you know, you pay protection. And well, anyway, the point is that during this time, one of the things, we touched on this in the bloodbath you mentioned earlier, many Catholic social theorists in the 19th century, this is really what Catholic social theorism kind of emerged from, they wanted somehow to instill a sort of feudal spirit into the great industrialists, you see, so that they would look after their workers to some degree the way the medieval lords were supposed to look after their peasants. Now, you know, you could argue this various different ways, but the truth of the matter is that the relationship between the lord and his vassal was much more humane than that between the sweatshop owner and his human cattle. And I don't think there's any way to escape that.
Hmm.
Any more than today, you know, not that we have such people, but all of our quasi-slave labor-driven factories in Los Angeles, you know, generally run by imported Asian labor who get nothing and just work from sun to sun in these horrible factories in East LA. There you have the kind of spirit that animated a lot of industrialists during the period that all this stuff was going on in the 19th century. So, I mean, to answer your question, while I don't entirely agree with Gautier, I certainly understand why he felt the way he did.
Okay. Okay, next question is from Claudia.
All right, Claudia.
Currently reading Every Man Today Called Rome
Wow.
by Charles Coulombe. It's a great work, and I highly recommend it for anyone looking to identify the roots of our modern societal and theological crisis. Available through Tumblr House.
Ooh.
In the chapter Prelude to Horror, Charles laments the lack of piety among modern millionaires and what he labels the self-made bourgeoisie. What specific actions can wealthy Catholics take to reform the church and support the spread of traditional practices?
Well, that's a very good question. And the answer is, firstly, to use their money strategically. You know, if the bishop wants any of your dough, that's nice. What's the Latin Mass situation like in the diocese? Because you see, Your Elegance, the amount of money you're getting out of me is directly linked to the ease of access of Latin Masses. There are a lot of other Catholic organizations I can give my money to other than your diocese, and I realize that you might be reluctant to give me what I want. I get that, because you're in charge and I'm not. And if you've got a better way of financing your work, you go right ahead and you do that, especially in the wake of COVID-19. You just do whatever you need to do. But if you want my money, you're going to have to ensure certain things, and one of them is that. Now, that's not all, however, because a wealthy Catholic is also obligated to practice the social teachings of the church at home. So any employees really do have to get a living wage. And I'm going to take you a step further. If you're wildly wealthy, I think you've got an obligation to employ as many servants as you can.
Yeah, you've talked about that in a previous episode. That's really interesting.
I believe him. Because imagine that you've got $75 million and you're living in an apartment in New York, and you've got a maid who comes in twice a week.
Okay.
I mean, that's not what you would call a social use of your income.
Okay. Well, why does it have to be used in that sort of traditional way?
Well,
as compared to, like, perhaps putting a carrot on the stick in front of local parishes and say the Latin Mass will give you some cash.
Well, for one thing, because especially if you have a place in the country that you're running with a full staff, you'll inevitably carry a certain amount of weight in that part of the world. And your opinions will become important to the locals in a way they wouldn't be otherwise. People look up to their employers, especially if the employers treat them well.
So you're saying Catholics should employ more people to gain more weight with the people they employ?
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying, can't you gain more weight with local priests and local parishes? Isn't that more important than just arbitrary cleaning maids?
It depends on the situation. But if you're in an area with a large amount of unemployment, you've got an obligation, in addition to your religious duties, you have an obligation to try to deal with the social problems as well in your own sphere. And mind you, I would also say that it's not just a question of religion and labor. If you have a lot of money, you have, I think, an obligation to support whatever cultural or other charitable things hit your fancy.
Okay. A bunch of questions from Diego. I've been reading Hilaire Belloc and G.K. Chesterton lately. My order's over $25, which include free shipping and a $5 off book review, among other peculiarities. Wow. Sounds like a good deal to me, Charles.
Really? Is it, and golly, $5 off?
Yes, even more. $5 off and free shipping and handling. Can you believe that?
And that's
what more
not
could
all.
you ask for? And that's not all. That's right.
Operators are standing by.
Act now.
No CODs.
No CODs. Limited time offer. Void where prohibited. Not
an actor.
Yeah, so Diego continues. He says, I've noticed something interesting. When they, being Belloc and Chesterton, reference their time, they do so by saying "2-day." This detail caught my attention when even the most privileged Charles A. Coulombe used it in his book Star-Spangled Crown. Can Charles explain why writers from the before time used this fine distinction that has been lost to our modern world, given that Charles is among the few elite members of society that writes for a living?
Huh. Yes, I could.
Okay. Diego's second question.
Going on. No, well, it's just the way it was written. You know, it today, tomorrow. It was the standard way of doing it back in the 20s. And after World War II, the current way of doing it became popular. My use of it is partly a way of thumbing my nose at the establishment, along with using AD and BC. But I specifically used it in Star Spangled Crown to give kind of an impression of where society had gone in my mythical author's time.
Why do you think that was changed?
Well, because there's been a general, quote-unquote, streamlining of the language in toto. Constructions are much simpler. People's speech is much sloppier. So is their writing.
Okay.
It's just all part of the general dumbing down.
When did you make this change?
Well, I noted when I was in college, I read a lot of people from that era, and I noted they all did that. But
it wasn't about noting that they did that. It must have been about deciding to thumb your nose at society.
Yeah, basically. It was.
So that's when you did it in
I would say
college?
maybe 15, 20 years ago.
Wait, 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, that's in your 30s then.
Mm.
So you didn't do that in your 20s yet.
No.
Interesting. Okay.
See, I can grow as a person too.
I never said you couldn't grow as a person, Charles.
I am not trapped with the shackles of the 1970s.
Well, okay. Fair
The
enough.
the only trap I've got is the knowledge that Keith Richards is going to outlast all life on Earth. And I love the poster that shows him looking very antique and grizzled and all that. And he goes, COVID-19? I used to smoke that back in the 70s.
All right. Next question from Diego. There's a book I read called The Spanish Explorers of the 16th Century by Charles Coulombe. In it, he describes scenes in which Spanish missionaries would often head into foreign lands and risk their lives. However, Coulombe also states that, if accompanied and in imminent danger, the missionaries would ask those around them to leave and to tell and to preach their story of martyrdom to the civilized society. Is there any background of this sort of religious zeal that came from Europe? I'm aware the Reconquista played a major part, but there has to be more to it. Again, clarification would be much obliged.
Well, there is. I mean, the French Jesuits did a lot of the same thing when they were captured by the Iroquois in the Jesuit relations.
Were they
A
martyred?
part of it, what's that?
Were they martyred?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
We've heard of the North American martyrs, the American martyrs, the Canadian martyrs. It's the same bunch. They were all martyred. And basically, part of it was to try to save the lives of the people who were witnessing. Part of it was seeing their martyrdom very much in the same light as the death of Christ. You know, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his friends. So they were, they were very, even going back to St. Francis, who was keen on getting martyred. A desire for martyrdom has not been unknown, especially amongst missionaries, because they knew very well that pronouncing the truth in front of certain audiences could get them killed. They were the real speakers of truth to power, not the phony morons who yap about it now.
Yeah. Seems like the model for power nowadays is that anybody who has more power than you is above you, you grovel to.
Yeah.
And then everyone below you, you treat like dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. In Charles's book, Star Spangled Crown, he mentions La Hispanidad. Now, to my very limited knowledge, I thought that La Hispanidad would concern Hispanics. I was very surprised when Charles, a beloved and proud French Canadian, mentioned this topic. I'd like Mr. Coulombe to reveal the story of his knowledge of La Hispanidad.
Well, it was just coming at an early age to California, to Los Angeles. And from there, learning about the missionaries, the 21 missions and so forth. By extension, I learned a lot about the Spanish colonial epic. And of course, I knew about the French colonial epic and the English colonial epic. Now, the Portuguese didn't do that much in North America, but they certainly did in Brazil and Africa and Asia in particular, in spreading the faith. So I came to realize that our worldwide civilization actually rests on 4 or perhaps 5 major pillars. The Anglosphere, Francophonie, Hispanidad, Lusophonia, and the Russian, the Siberian thing. Those 5 pillars undergird our entire global civilization. And without any one of them, the whole thing would never have been.
Did you pick that up from a previous historian, or is that your own hypothesis?
That's me. That's me.
Okay.
And I think that part of the uniqueness of America, in the United States, is that within our boundaries, Hispanidad, Francophonie, and the Anglosphere came together and gave us our unique manner, because our areas, we're obviously not part of the Anglosphere solely. We're obviously not part of Francophonie, and we're obviously not part of Hispanidad solely. We're a strange creature, and part of the reason we are the way we are is because the clashing and meeting of these 3 were integral to our development and our history.
Okay. Right. Diego's final question. Thanks to Mr. Coulombe, I'm aware that Blessed Emperor Karl's centenary is coming within a couple of years. My question is, how would someone go about honoring the memory of this great blessed, a true servant of God?
Well, there's several ways. Firstly, you could contact the emperorcharles.org is the website of the Gebetsliga in the United States. You contact them, and really any area, any institution that has a shrine to Blessed Emperor Karl that was associated with him during his life, throughout Austria, Hungary, Czechia, Transylvania. You can ask them, what they're doing. The centennial year, you've got 3 major anniversaries, being his death, his birth, and his Saint's Day, which is the day he got married to servant of God Empress Zita, who herself was up for beatification.
Okay.
Now, let's say for a moment that you can't afford to leave the country. You're stuck in the States. Well, there are 13 shrines to Blessed Emperor Karl. You might visit one of them. But wait, there's more. What if you live in an area that doesn't have one of those? Well, you can look around and see if there are any of the churches or schools or anything else like that in your area that owe their origins to people who came from Austria-Hungary, Czechs or Croats or Slovenes or whatever.
Well, that's a pretty good list, but you missed one little tiny option, which
What's
is
that?
they can buy your book, which is coming out soon.
Yes, they can definitely buy my book, and they probably should.
I need to put it up on the Tumblr House website soon. Available for pre-order. There's not a definite timeline on the book. I think the publisher, Tan Books, says it's coming out in August. So we're all waiting with bated breath. I got a little sneak peek. Well, actually, I got a digital copy of the file of the book, which I've started reading. I got through the foreword by what is it, Karl von Habsburg now?
Archduke Karl, his grandson.
Karl, his grandson. That was great. Charles's foreword was preface was excellent. It really got me revved up. So I imagine I'm probably going to read the whole thing this weekend in one shot.
Wow.
Because it really sounds great, and so hopefully I'll be able to put it on the Tumblr House website for everyone to pre-order. I believe the book is $27.95. It's hardcover. I think Charles told me it's 400 pages.
Yeah, 408. But who's counting?
There you go.
But wait a minute, how much are you charging for it?
$27.95. That's a great. Thank you for reminding me, Charles. $27.95, which means you don't even need to buy another book, and it comes with free shipping and handling. Isn't that unbelievable? Great. You don't even need to buy multiple books. You don't even need to like shuck and jive, and try to get that free shipping. Just one single book.
One book will bring you all the free shipping and handling you can possibly handle.
Well said, Charles. Well said.
And that's not all.
And that's not all. You send in a book review, you get $5 off. Wow.
That's right.
$5 plus free shipping and handling? That's like save $8 right there.
That is very, very true.
Wow. That's unbelievable. All right.
Not an actor.
No. All right. We have a bunch of questions from Mr. Fugu. Who prefaces it by saying, "Dear Vincent and Charles, I think you are full of it."
Well, I like that.
And by it, I mean valuable social, political, historical, and spiritual insight.
Oh, God bless you, my son. I feel so much better.
On to the questions. What constitutes proper submission to spiritual superiors, and what constitutes unhealthy codependency? On a related note, how do you respond to those who cite bad popes as an argument against monarchy? As an additional follow-up question, how does one resist falling victim to an unhealthy attachment to the cult of personality surrounding this, that, or the other pope?
That's a very good question. And, I would say you have to remember what our Lord went through with Annas and Caiaphas. By their fruits you shall know them. If they're good, then you use that measuring stick. You'll know, and if not, no. But if they're not good, again, he gave us the method, which was do what they say, not what they do. because inevitably people like that will talk a better story than they actually do. So that's not a bad rule of thumb. In terms of the bad popes being cited against monarchy, well, why don't we deal with bad elected officials like Adolf Hitler?
No, I don't think you understand. Generally, bad kings mean monarchy is bad. Bad priests mean Catholicism is bad. Bad senators, governors, congressmen, and other politicians a necessary evil that we have to learn to tolerate.
Oh,
Because this is
I
the
get
best we
it.
can do.
So basically,
Everything else
there's
is
no hope.
LARPing.
So there's no hope.
Basically, no.
There's no hope for any improvement, and we're stuck with garbage. And if we don't like it, we should just off ourselves.
This is what people truly believe, actually. They might not couch it in those terms, but this truly is what people believe.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, what a bleak world that would be where there was no hope of improvement. I can't believe that. I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
So, I'm sorry, I might have cut you off. How did you respond to people who cite popes as an argument against monarchy?
Well, I say, by that token, any bad president is an argument against the republic.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But I mean, you want to give a stupid argument? I'll give you a stupid argument. See how much you like it.
Right. Do you think there will be a future papal ruling regarding the Second Vatican Council, similar to what occurred with respect to the Council of Constance? What happened at the Council of Constance? I haven't heard of this.
Well, the Council of Constance. You remember the Great Schism when you had 3 popes?
Mm-hmm.
The Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund, got tired of it, so he convoked the Council of Constance. The first part of it was later on decided by the Pope to be canonical, but then they agreed on a single Pope, Martin V. He ordered the council to dissolve and desist, and they refused. And the council went into schism and declared itself superior to the Pope. Well, that didn't go over very well with the Pope, as you can imagine. And so you're in this strange situation where the first part of the Council of Constance was accepted by later popes, but not the latter part. So that's what he's talking about. But to answer your question, I don't think it'll ever be disavowed like that. I think it'll just be ignored and forgotten, like Lateran 10.
Okay. Is there a way for a Catholic to incorporate the faith with modern martial activity? In the West, discussions about martial activity and spirituality often turn to the samurai and Bushido and other Eastern non-Christian outlooks combined with martial arts or, at best, HEMA LARPing.
Whole lot of LARPing going on.
That's your cup of tea. You're the king. You're the king of the LARPers.
I am. I'm the king of the LARPers. Yeah, the LARPing VIP. Well, you get the idea. I went to the top and I had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. So make me real man cub. Well, anyway. Well, that's a very difficult question to answer because the disciplines he suggests, they don't have that many followers, I guess. But I think the code of chivalry, and the historical examples of people like the rebels in the Vendée and Andreas Hofer and all that are useful. And hunting.
Hunting, yeah, that's a good one. Okay. How do you feel about statutory legal systems versus the adversarial common law system, often associated with the Anglosphere?
Well, I think that legal systems, I don't think one size fits all. I think that each of them comes about because of the genius of that particular people. So I would no more set one against the other than I would set the British against the French. The different countries of Christendom, that's all.
Just as a fun question, if in the Anglican ordinariates the altar servers were to start carrying traditional ceremonial arms, like they do in the Zaire use, where the altar servers have spears, what would be the most fittingly patrimonial weapon?
The sword or a lance.
Okay, that makes sense. I reading Blessed Raymond Lully's The Order of Chivalry, I learned that the sword is purposefully shaped like a cross. That's not incidental.
No.
Which is interesting. So, it's kind of weird about the Zaire use with spears.
Yeah.
That's allowed?
Yeah, it's very tribal.
Okay. All right. Next question. Would a theoretical American monarch replace the Statue of Liberty with a statue of Our Lady?
Well, in Star Spangled Crown, of course, my imaginary monarch had to deal with a still primarily Protestant country, so he didn't do things like that. He did his best to kind of adjust around. But in a future America, if we're ever converted to Catholicism, I could well see that happening.
Well, if I remember correctly from Star Spangled Crown, there was a really big conversion rate. I thought you said like 40 or 50 or 60% of the people converted to Catholicism in your fantasy world.
They did. But they didn't do it overnight, and there was still a lot of preservation of things like the flag and all that.
But would that be something that's possible with the Statue of Liberty once you had those sort of demographics?
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. I hope.
Okay. Fun question number 2. If someone posts a meme of production and that person is later canonized, does that meme become a relic?
Ooh, cyber relics. I really don't know. Actually, this Italian kid who was just beatified, I think, he was 15, he died 10 years ago or whatever. I expect he's left a lot of cyber relics around.
Okay.
Because he was very active online.
Lastly, how would Charles feel about the development of a Hebrew ritual tradition within the Catholic Church?
No, I wouldn't mind it. We already have one to a degree in the Hebrew-speaking vicariate in the Patriarchate of Jerusalem. So I wouldn't. I mean, if it brings them in, I certainly wouldn't mind.
So what is that? Just in the language Hebrew?
Now the Mass in Hebrew, and I suppose some Jewish customs added to something or other.
They don't do that already in the Holy Land?
I said yes. They've got the.
Excuse me.
I said they've got the Hebrew-speaking vicariate of the Patriarchate of Jerusalem.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, because they've actually been having that on EWTN. I've been watching that, and we've been amazed at it.
If it brings them in, I'm all for it. I don't care if they pole vault into the church as long as they come in.
But random side note: all the priests and all the people all the Catholics they interview over in the Middle East, they have a different look on their faces than here. They all look war-torn.
Well, it's because they are. Now we're getting a taste of it, though.
Yeah, not like them, though. I mean...
No, you gotta go pretty far.
I think it's really, really bad over there. Oh, I mean, I know it's bad over there, but you can see it on their face.
That's for sure. And the Beirut explosion has not helped.
Okay, final question today is from Cameron. I am merely an irreligious believer in an Aristotelian unmoved mover. At the same time, I very much approve of Christian traditionalism for moral reasons, and I, for that reason, would encourage anyone to become Christian so as to positively influence their moral behavior. I feel that personally adopting Christianity may be of great benefit to myself as well, psychologically, behaviorally, and socially. Even putting the practicalities aside, it would serve to make my moral beliefs much more compelling and motivating within myself if I believed they were ordained by God. That is, of course, a terrible reason to adopt an entire belief system that encompasses so much more than just a moral creed. So I ask you, what basic merit Christianity has? What do you have going for you? A book and some eyewitness testimony of biblical events? A book need not necessarily be anything more than just a book, and the eyewitness testimony of biblical events seems insufficient in light of the fact that almost every other religion that is mutually exclusive with Christianity has its own eyewitness testimonies. Thus, to me, it seems that the only two sources of proof of Christianity are lacking in credibility. It is not possible as an alternate to derive Christianity entirely by reason, since part of Christian dogma is the belief in historical events which would require empirical testimony, most notably the life and deeds of Jesus. And as to the faith, let us assume that I have faith in Cthulhu, who shall reward me with everlasting happiness after death for not believing in God, to show how faith is an effete justification for belief in anything.
Well, that's a good question, and the answer is very simple. Just as in the time of our Lord, when he punctuated his teachings, which people tended to reject because, who is this guy, the carpenter's son? So he punctuated them with the miraculous. And the miraculous has never ceased to dog the steps of the church from that time to this. But in the past 25 years, there have been 6 Eucharistic miracles. The changing of bread to flesh and wine to blood. In some very peculiar ways. And again, scientifically attested. This is amazing stuff. Absolutely impossible. And yet there it is. The second thing is the church's continuing dealing with exorcisms. These strange preternatural phenomena are nevertheless put to sleep, put an end to, by the church's rituals. Now, in both these cases, what I would be asked to believe, if the faith is not true, if the church is not true, is that on the one hand, you have these miraculous occurrences that back up a doctrinal teaching that isn't true. So it's just madness. The world is totally random. Your ears might turn to carrots for no particular reason. The other thing is that the understanding of the demonic is very, very important because, again, it brings us face to face with the realities of the religion. You see, it's not just that Christianity is a nice thing to live by and Catholicism is a wonderful faith and they've got beautiful art and all that. It's also about you going to hell or not, about you escaping the devil's fate or sharing it. That's what it's about. There's a wonderful meme of production that should have been nationalized that shows the late Father Gabriel Amorth, the exorcist of Rome, and he's got a cross, and the caption is, "It's easy to make fun of Catholics until you've got a demon in the house." And many folk have been converted in the third world because of mass successful exorcisms by Catholic priests. So in other words, what I'm telling you is that you have to look beyond your quote-unquote rational arguments and look beyond, instead, the factual ones to objective reality, not to a head game spent chasing your tail in your mind. The thing about the miraculous is that it's not your doing, it's God's insertion of himself directly into the world in violation of what appear to be his laws. And for whatever reason, he chooses to do so the same way he did when he was alive and walking in Palestine.
Hmm.
It would be very foolish if he thought it was an important and useful thing, important enough to do it. It'd be foolish to ignore it. He does it for a reason. He does it because he's not Cthulhu, because he's not Mohammed, because he's not Buddha. He does it because he's the real thing and he can do it. And the whole point is to put an end to doubt, just as was the point when he was raising the dead and healing the sick in Palestine. But again, I mean, to go back to his original question, for me, to refuse to believe in the God who is revealed by such miracles and by the exorcisms would be an act of faith that I'm not capable of. You know, it's like the dismissal of the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah.
You'd have to believe that it was a forgery made by a medieval master who had harnessed nuclear energy for artistic purposes, had a supply of first-century pollen that he slipped into the cloth very carefully, had a knowledge of photographic technology, so he knew how to make negatives. I mean, it just... And at the end of the day, he never did anything else.
Yeah, just that.
Just that.
Anonymously.
Yeah. I mean, again, it takes a level of faith I don't have.
It's true.
Anyway, I hope that helps, and I hope it brings you closer to the faith. Lord knows we all need to be closer to the faith.
Okay, any words to wrap this up, Charles?
Yes, indeedio. August is winding along. Autumn will soon be here. Then we'll begin to look to the wonderful, wonderful feasts of autumn. We have the Feast of the Assumption coming up on the 15th, which is the great national day of France. So feel free to be as French as you like on August 15th. But then, as I say, September will come in Michaelmas, then October and Halloween, November and my birthday, All Saints, All Souls, Martyrdoms, and Remembrance Day, Veterans Day, Armistice Day, and Thanksgiving, and then St. Andrews, and Advent, and St. Nicholas, and the Immaculate Conception, our American National Day, and Our Lady of Guadalupe, St. Lucy, the Rorate Masses, the Singban Gabi, the Misas de Gallo, the Las Posadas, the Los Pastores, and finally, Christmas Eve. Then it'll be Christmas Day, and then after a week, ladies and gentlemen, January the 1st, 2021, and we will say goodbye to 2020. I'll sing Old Lang Syne that night. You betcha. Bye-bye 2020. Something to look forward to.
That's for sure. Trying to put this year behind us.
Yeah, rapidly as possible. And let's hope 2021 and the rest of the new roaring 20s roar more nicely than this one did.
Yes, that's something worth praying for. Okay, that'll do it for this episode. If you liked the episode and aren't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, bottom right corner of the screen. And remember, if it's Monday,
it's off the menu.
And the soul you save
may be your own.
See you next time.
Good night, all.